everybody, it's time for yet another controversial ranking where I lose a bunch of subscribers for my awful opinions. I'm going to be losing, they're going to be dropping like flies, pun intended. But yeah, whatever, it's my opinion, get over it, alright? Shouldn't offend you, but this is my ranking, worst to best, of the Fly franchise. We got 5 movies to talk about, and yeah, so what is number 5? What is the worst one? The one that really just bored me to death was Curse of the Fly. I didn't care for this one at all. I like that this movie took the family from the first 2 movies and they made them more like villains in this one, where they're doing science experiments on humans, not just themselves. They did at some point test themselves because they have to eject themselves with something, otherwise they age very quickly into a skeleton and die at the end. Spoiler, oh well, who cares? Old movie, don't need to watch it, it's boring. Then, like, the characters, the love interest in this movie is so forced, it is ridiculous. I mean, this guy gets married to a woman who just is walking around almost half naked right around the corner from an insane asylum that she clearly escaped from, and he asks her to marry him within like a week. It's ridiculous. I don't like the movie, I don't care for it at all. So The Curse of the Fly is my number 5. Number 4, moving on from that one, is the original Fly 2 called Return of the Fly. Should have been called Son of the Fly. We got the son, Philippe, from part 1. He's doing the same experiment. History is repeating itself. He gets put in the same predicament as his dad, except it wasn't really his fault. He gets thrown into it by some other asshole, which I thought was just really funny because the guy didn't really need to do that. He just did it to add insult to injury. He punched him, knocked him down. He's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take this one step further. I'm going to pick your ass up and throw you in there, and throw a fly in there too. Like, he captured the fly and threw it in there with him on purpose. I think he knew his history and thought this would be so funny, and it is funny. But another thing that's funny is the bad, just aged effects. Like, this was scary back then, I guess. The whole big fly head just looks ridiculous, and it makes me laugh. And this one's the shortest, I think, running time wise, and it's still kind of slow at times. I just was checking out my watch every now and then because I just didn't care for the movie, and that's why it's my number 4. So moving on from that one is the original. Now, while I love seeing Vincent Price, and I think this movie's story is better than the story we get in one of the movies I'm about to talk about after this, I still would prefer watching that movie over this one because it's an 80s movie and it's got the effects that I like, and it's more my style of film. This one's way too old for me. I'm not a fan of old classic horror movies. The oldest movie I love is Psycho. Anything else before the 60s and in the 60s, I don't really care for that much. So it's just not my style. That's all it is. It's not a terrible movie. It's just not my style. I do like the way the story's told, in like flashbacks. It opens up intriguing. You see this guy with his head crushed, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? And then, it's okay. I see its, classic appeal to some, but I just can't get into it as much as the other ones. So let's move on to my number 2, which is The Fly 2. Now, I agree that this story isn't exactly that great. There's a lot of writers on this one, and you can tell when you're watching it, the story is meh. While I don't care for the whole evil government plot they have going on here that we've seen done a million times, I really like the effects in this movie, and I like having Eric Stoltz here. I think he does a good job in this movie. You got a lot of good gore, just like in the first one. People's faces melting. You got the guy from Freddy vs. Jason. It's enjoyable. I don't think it's as bad as everyone says. It's got one of the saddest scenes ever with the dog turning into a monster, and he has to put it out, put it down, I guess, kill it. I appreciate them continuing the story from part 1, having some continuity here. They even bring back that one character from the first one. The opening picks up pretty soon after the first one with the pregnancy, her giving birth. So I like that. I always like a sequel, to pay attention to the previous one and to keep the story going. And so yeah, that's all I'll say right now about The Fly 2. I already got a review that you can check out to hear more of my thoughts on it. And last and finally, my favorite is the remake by Cronenberg, with all kinds of nasty, awesome, grotesque, just amazing body horror, and just the way the Fly looks at the end, his body just falling apart, ripping his nails off, his teeth are falling out, the arm wrestling scene, like the love story in this movie, the love triangle going on, and the performances by Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis are terrific, and it's fantastic. It's a very, very well crafted movie. There's only little gripes I have with it. I just think that the love interest between Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum kind of just sparks very quickly. Like they just automatically have sex like the first night that they start working together. I didn't really see much of a connection between them. It just seemed kind of forced, and him getting into the science experiment, the whole telepod thing felt forced. Like, why would he even take that risk just because he's upset at his new girlfriend? It just felt forced. But other than that, I think the rest of the movie is awesome. So the original Fly is my number one, my favorite of the franchise, easily. But there you have it. That is my ranking of the Fly franchise. Look forward to my next franchise, which will be the Purge movies. I have only seen the first two, so I'm curious to check out 3 and 4. And yeah, and the fifth one coming out this 4th of July. So that will be my next franchise. Let me know what you think about this franchise in the comments below, what your ranking is and why. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.